بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبيل الظالمين مدرك الحاربين. والحمد لله الذي نور قلوبنا بشعاع أنوار محبة العلوية وجعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية المرتضوية الذي فرض الله محبته ومودته على العربية والعجمية. والصلاة والسلام وتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي اسمه في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقتليهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر فضائلهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziya, for the enlightenment of the graves of your Marhumeen and of the graves of the Shuhada and Siddiqeen, for the hastening and the safety of Hazrat Baqiyatillah al-A'zam Arwahun al-Fida, and for the safety of all the Azadars around the world, please recite aloud salawat. Praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman, the one who is Rahim, the one that has enabled us one other night to remember about Abdullah in these most holy of nights. If only we understood the importance of these nights, the importance of this Azadari, if we only understood the importance of the message of Imam al-Hussein, and then today the whole world would have been saying Hussein. When we look around at the world today, it's often very disheartening. We see that the whole world is imploding in on itself. You know, the economy everywhere, Italy is falling, Greece, Portugal, all of these places, then all the wars that are going on, the natural disasters that are happening, the social degradation within society, and a person gets truly baffled as to what is happening in society and what role that they have and what they're to do in a society that in itself is imploding in on itself, that is falling apart at the seams. And as one of the Shias of Ali Muhammad, when you look forward and you look at this and you think, what am I to do? The whole society around me, everyone's going mad, the society is falling apart, the economy, the wars, the social degradation. But that's not even factoring in something like the factor of shaitan. We haven't even factored into that the onslaught of shaitan, because all of this work that we see around us is not the work of shaitan. In fact, this is the work of the minions of shaitan. Shaitan himself has bigger fish to fry. In other words, he has a much larger aim. He says in the Holy Quran, when Allah casts him out, he says, I swear by your greatness, by your majesty, that I will sit upon Sirat al-Mustaqim, and I will misguide everyone except for those that are Ibad al-Mukhlisin, those that are the prophets of Allah. The Mufassirin say this is the prophets of Allah, but he sits upon Sirat al-Mustaqim, he sits upon that straight path. And what is Sirat al-Mustaqim? Because everyone comes forward and they claim that they are sitting on Sirat al-Mustaqim, or they are walking upon Sirat al-Mustaqim. There are those that are aspiring to walk on Sirat al-Mustaqim. There are those that claim that we are on Sirat al-Mustaqim. So what is this Sirat al-Mustaqim that we have, that everyone keeps on talking about it? And the definition that we get of Sirat al-Mustaqim is from Surah Al-Hamd, that surah that we recite every day constantly in our namazes. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines Sirat al-Mustaqim, He says, Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim. This is that path upon which I have placed my total ni'mah. This is that path where I have placed all of the blessings. This is Sirat al-Mustaqim. So now what is this Sirat al-Mustaqim? How do we define what this Sirat al-Mustaqim is? And again we go to the Holy Quran and we find it in Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah number 3. Allah says, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. That today I have perfected your religion and I have completed my total blessings upon you. I have bestowed my utter blessings upon you. What day is this? This is that ayah that was revealed after the hands of Ali ibn Abi Talib was raised, after the Holy Prophet said, Man kuntu mawla fa hadha Aliyun mawla. Shaitan, he sits on the path of those that follow Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sirat al-Mustaqim. Two simple definitions from the Holy Quran, and we have defined what is Sirat al-Mustaqim. The aim of Shaitan is not all of these social degradations, these wars and everything. It is but to misguide those that claim or try and walk upon Sirat al-Mustaqim. They try and walk upon the path of Vilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Your test as those that love Amir al-Mu'mineen is to walk upon that path, and he will try and misguide you from everywhere. His total attention is faced upon you. The ni'mah was completed in the Ghadir. And Ghadir itself is that turning point in the history of Islam. Had Ghadir not been forgotten, then we would have lived in a very different world today. We would have lived in a very more open, more Ahlul Bayt focused society than the one that we live today. Forget the fact that they would have dared to tie ropes around the neck of Ali and drag him to the masjid in order to force him to give bay'ah. The whole world itself would have changed had Ghadir not been forgotten. Karbala itself would not have happened had Ghadir not been forgotten. We've been talking about those deviations pre-Karbala, those things that led up to the events of Karbala. And yesterday we spoke about, had they not forgotten the status of Hazrat Zahra Salamullah alayha. And then the second phase is, had they not forgotten Ghadir, then Karbala wouldn't have happened. Because everything about Ghadir is unique. In fact, I'll go one step forward and say Ghadir is the biggest cover-up in the history of Islam. Because everything about Ghadir is unique. When we look at the event of Ghadir, we find that the place itself is memorable, it is unique, so that it would sit in the minds of the people why the Holy Prophet of Islam has stopped us next to this oasis. But in reality, it wasn't an oasis. Ghadir Khum, meaning that oasis that is now dried up, the water is stagnant. The place was a place where no one would stop. The water smelt. It was a place where people would just pass. The Holy Prophet stops them at Ghadir Khum. He stops them at this place in order for them to remember, yes, why did the Holy Prophet of Islam? Everything about Ghadir, the heat of Ghadir, if you read the books of history, the heat of Ghadir itself was unique. If you look at the mimbar of Ghadir, it was unique. If you look at the khutbah of the Holy Prophet on Ghadir, it was unique. If you look at how the Holy Prophet made people stay for 3 days, it was unique. Everything was unique about Ghadir so that the people would not forget what had happened. But yet, they forgot. They chose to forget. And they chose to forget even. They chose to cover up this event where 100,000 people plus had gathered. They chose to cover up that khutbah that was delivered. They chose to cover up everything. They changed the meanings of Mawla. They changed the meanings of the khutbah. As if the Holy Prophet of Islam had just stopped the people for 3 days in the searing heat just to tell them that Ali was his friend. They wanted to forget Ghadir. They chose to forget Ghadir. And then there was a systematic approach of lowering the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Throughout the years, decades of total suppression of the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen. They tried as much as they could to suppress it. They tried to order cursing of Amir al-Mu'mineen, to the extent that they say in Sham, the people wanted to disregard Amir al-Mu'mineen during the reign of Muawiyah so much that they would write the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen at the bottom of their feet and walk on the ground. This is that level that they had gone to in order to make the people forget, in order to make the people overlook the event of Ghadir. Even there is hadiths that we have that someone came to Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Now, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf is mashhur, the killer of Kumayn, the killer of Sa'id ibn Jubayr. He killed many companions of the Holy Prophet of Islam. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, it is known. They also know him as the butcher in the books of history, because he butchered the lovers of Ahlul Bayt. In fact, Hajjaj himself, Umar ibn al-Abd al-Aziz, who is also one of the Khalifas, says about Hajjaj that if you were to gather all of the khabith, the word he uses is khabith, he says if you were all to gather all of the evil people of the world and put them to one side, وَجِعْنَا بِالْحَجَّاجِ لَغَلَبْنَاهُمْ, and you put Hajjaj ibn Yusuf on one side, he would outweigh them. This is that person. Someone comes to Hajjaj, they say, and in order to give an example of that propaganda against Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, Hajjaj, we are the people who cursed Ali the most. Our tribe is the people who cursed Ali the most. Hajjaj said, really? How? He says, when it was ordered in the battle of Siffin, all of our men fought against Ali. He says, this is a great virtue. Mr. Hajjaj, it's a great virtue. He says the second thing that our tribe did is that when the order came from the Khalifa in order to curse Ali, we did not just curse Ali, but we started cursing Hazrat Zahra, we started cursing Hassanain, salawatullah alayhim. We started cursing each and every one of them as well. And then he says the third thing that we did, Hajjaj, that our women, they did nether, they made an oath that if Hussein ibn Ali is killed in Karbala, they will fast for 3 days as shukr. This is that mentality that they were working against. This is what they were doing to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But even though there was this systematic lowering of the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they could still not hide his greatness. Why? Because all of the characteristics of perfection were present in Amir al-Mu'mineen. In fact, Sheikh Safiuddin Hilli has 2 lines of poetry in Arabic. He says, جُمِعَتْ فِي صِفَاتِكَ الْأَزْدَادُ وَلِهَذَا أَزَّتْ لَكَ الْأَنْدَادُ. That within you, O Ali, is gathered all of the sifat, the attributes of good. Patience. Look at Amir al-Mu'mineen. There is patience. But at the same time, there is his anger in war. You see the anger in war, but then he's still on the musalla, crying. He's lifting the doors of Khaybar as if on 2 fingers and throwing them inside. But yet, Ya Rabbi irham za'fa badani wa riqqata jildi. That my Lord, have mercy upon my weak body. Everything that you can think of, all of those attributes of good were at perfection within Ali. So that's why he says, جُمِعَتْ فِي صِفَاتِكَ الْأَزْدَادُ. Within you are gathered all of these good sifat. وَلِهَذَا أَزَّتْ لَكَ الْأَنْدَادُ. And this is what gives you your magnificence, O Ali. Ali is that person whom the people would run from his justice. They knew he was just, but they would run. They would commit a crime and they would run from his justice to Sham, to Muawiyah. In fact, we have people like Najashi, who themselves, running from Amir al-Mu'mineen, don't want to be punished, but when they go to Muawiyah, they say, Muawiyah says, why are you here? He says, oh Muawiyah, I have run from the justice of Ali ibn Abi Talib in order to seek safety in your zulm, in your oppression. They were accepting that level of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sudaya Hamadani is a lady. She comes to Muawiyah, she says, to complain about one of the governors who is oppressing the people. She tells him, and he ignores her, and he carries on doing what he was doing. She becomes angry. She says, Muawiyah, do you know, I went to Amir al-Mu'mineen with exactly the same complaint many years ago when he was alive. And he was in between his namazes, in between he stopped and he came. He listened to my complaint. He wrote me a letter at that time dismissing the governor straight away. And then she looks at him and says, oh Muawiyah, Salla al-ilahu ala jasadin tadammanahu al-qabr. Oh Muawiyah, praise be upon that body that was buried in the grave. فَأَصْبَحَ فِيهِ الْعَدْلُ مَدْفُونًا. And with him justice was buried as well. This is that power that they get with the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen. That even in front of a zalim, they stand there and they will tell what is the truth. And Imam al-Baqir salawatullah wa sallallahu alayhi has a beautiful hadith. He says, كانت في علي سنة ألف نبي. That within Ali ibn Abi Talib there are attributes of 1,000 prophets manifest within him. Attributes of 1,000 prophets are manifest within him. This is that Ali who you follow. This is that Ali upon whose path you walk. Be proud to walk upon his path. Be proud to be one of his Shias. Ayatollah Mohsin Karaati narrates that once I went to Pakistan for a gathering. And it was a gathering of all ulama. From all mazahib, from Shia, from Sunni, from the Salafi school of thought, everyone was there. He says, I delivered a lecture from my side, I prepared it excellently. And when I delivered it, it was delivered excellently. Afterwards, they came to me, the ulama of the Ahl Sunnah, they came to me and they said, you did an excellent lecture, but there's only one thing. They go, such a beautiful lecture, the only pity is that you're a Shia. This is what they said to him. Ayatollah Mohsin Karaati turns around and he says, I will answer your objection in 1 minute. He says, I will answer all of your objections in 1 minute. He says, I have taken my deen from that man who first in jihad was greater than all of the other ashab of the Holy Prophet. In your own books it is written, in the Quran it is written, that the one whose jihad is higher, whose jihad is greater, he is greater in the eyes of Allah. I take my deen from that man who is unanimously agreed as being the greatest mujahid in the history of Islam. He says, second, I take my deen from that man whose ilm is greater than all of those that have ever lived. In fact, the second Khalifa himself within the books of history says that Aliyun a'lamun nas, Ali is the most knowledgeable from all of men. The Quran itself says that those that have ilm are greater than you. I take my deen from that man who was greatest in ilm. I take my deen from that man who was the greatest in taqwa, in the fear of God. Everyone accepts that Ali was God-fearing in everything from Baytul Mal until his namaz-e-shab, from those 2,000 rakats that he would recite. Every night, Ali was greatest in God-fearing, and the Quran itself says, Inna akramakum indallah atqakum, that the one that is nearest to Allah in the eyes of Allah is the one that has taqwa and the fear of God. He says, I've taken my deen from that man. I've given you 3 points from the Holy Quran: taqwa, jihad and ilm. I have taken my deen from that man that spent his whole life with the Holy Prophet. You have taken your deen from those that came maybe a century or 2 centuries after the Holy Prophet of Islam. But I have taken my deen from that man who spent 23 years with the Holy Prophet, from the time the first revelation came until the time he himself lowered the Holy Prophet into the grave. Be proud of your status, as the Shi'ane of Ali, of the Shias of Ali. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen, whose very zikr is ibadat. His very zikr is ibadat. His very name is what one would use in order to have their du'as accepted. It appears in the books of history that once Amir al-Mu'mineen came to the Holy Prophet. He had some trouble in his life. He said, Ya Rasulullah, pray for me. Ya Rasulullah, pray for me. I have some trouble in my life. The Holy Prophet of Islam raised his hands. He said, Allahumma gfir li aliyin bihaqqi Ali. That, oh Allah, solve the problems of Ali for the sake of Ali. Amir al-Mu'mineen turns around and says, Ya Rasulullah, I've asked you to pray for me. What is this that now you are using my name as the wasila in order to pray for me? Rasulullah says, Ya Ali, however much I looked around the world, I found no one more dearer to Allah than you. Thus I use your name. All of this greatness, the Christians, they come, no one can answer them, he answers them, they convert. The Romans come, no one can answer them, he comes and they convert. The Yemenis come, no one can answer them, he comes and he converts them. Yet, this ummah saw it fit to overlook Ghadir, overlook all of these virtues and did not follow him. That love hasn't permeated within the hearts. But we also say that they did not choose to follow him. But when we point, 3 fingers come back at us. All of the zikr of Amir al-Mu'mineen, all of the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen, between me and between Allah, how many of the teachings of Amir al-Mu'mineen can I say that I have implemented within my life? I claim to be his lover, I claim to be his Shia, I claim to be his follower. But which one of those teachings have I taken in my life? Do I give that importance to namaz? Like he did? You heard from Awan said yesterday, the battle of Siffin, one of the hardest battles of the career of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The battle stops. They're still firing arrows from the other side, but he prays namaz in the heat of battle. When he says, Al-Muhasinu zinatul rajul, that the beard is the beautification of the man, have I followed Ali on this? Have I grown that beard? That he says, this is the beautification of a man. What point are we going to take from his life and say, have I implemented it? Make that intention today that we're going to. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, you can't live like me. Don't try and live like me. In fact, in his wasiyah to his sons, he said, his sons are ma'soom as well, they're imams. But he's saying to them, do not try and live like me. Do not try and live your life as simple as I lived my life, because you cannot. But help me with your a'mal and your wara. Remember yesterday? Wara, higher level of taqwa. Taqwa is just the base. He says, if you want to help me, if you want to show your love for me, then follow me with your a'mal and wara. We need to implement his teachings, every single one. We don't take one thing, not just the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen, not just Nadir Ali when we need it. No, every aspect. If he says that the Shia is the one that grows the beard should be on my face. And sometimes we get round it, and with the beard we say, it's there, I trim it down. Trim it right down to a number 1. But it's here, this is facial hair, I don't shave, shaving's haram. Definition of a beard is that it should be able to be seen at 40 steps. And that the people around should class it as a beard. I'm going to leave that topic there. For you to think about, for you to contemplate over. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen. We've been listening to his fadail for years and years and years. We cried that the Ummah forgot Ghadir. We keep alive Fatimiyya so that they will never forget the tragedy that befell Hazrat Zahra. We keep alive Karbala. We keep alive Ghadir, but not through our actions. If you want to keep alive Ghadir, you want to keep alive Karbala, you want to keep alive Fatimiyya, you want to keep alive each and every one of the shahadats of the Imam, each and every one of the wiladats of the Imam, then your appearance, your a'mal, your wara should say that this is a Shia of Al Muhammad. When it's implemented into my life, we were sitting with some brothers yesterday. Amir al-Mu'mineen in Kalimat al-Kithar to Kumail says that Kumail, there are some people that live as active members of society, but yet their ruh are in the illiyin. Amir al-Mu'mineen, no one tells you to remove yourself from society. No, you are urged to get involved in society, in every aspect of society, from the political front, right the way to the social and the charitable fundings. Why do we not yet have a trust in the name of Imam al-Hussein, in the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen, in the name of Sayyidah Zahra? Why do we not have a trust, a charity trust that helps the wider public? Those that are living below the poverty line here in the UK, and there are those.
Very good. MashaAllah.
To implement them, and then they can say, yes, these are the Shias of Ali. Because this is the Imam that we follow. Because that he could not bear zulm in even the smallest degree upon anyone. And yet we live comfortable lives in our society, but yet those in the mainstream society around us, in the wider public, are suffering. They are victims of oppression. But the only way that we can help them is if we, with speed, help ourselves. We reform ourselves. Keep Ghadir alive through your actions. Because had Ghadir not been forgotten, Karbala wouldn't have happened. And if we don't implement Ghadir into our lives, then the inevitable will happen and death will overcome us, and then, well, hasrata. Oh, how we wish we had listened. Oh, how we wish. Ya laytani kuntu turaba, Surah Naba. Oh, how I wish I was earth. That I've forgotten about my duties to Allah. The fourth Imam, Dua Abu Hamza Thimali, I've recited it here before. He says in a part of Dua Abu Hamza Thimali, فَمَالِي لَا أَبْكِي. For what reason should I not cry? أَبْكِي لِخُرُوجِ نَفْسِي. I cry for the time when my soul will be taken from my body. أَبْكِي لَذِيقِ لَهْدِي. I cry for that time when I will be placed in that narrow grave. أبقي لظلمة قبري. I cry for the darkness of my grave. أبكي لسؤال منكر ونكير إياي. I cry for the time when Munkir and Nakir will question me. أبكي لخروج من قبري أريانا ذليلا عاملا ثقلي على الظهر. I cry for the time when I will be taken out from my grave, naked, zalil, ashamed, carrying all of the burdens of my sins upon my back. I will look to my left and I will look to my right, and I will find that the whole of creation is worried about themselves and no one is worried about me. That is the time that we are preparing for. That death which is inevitable. How many of us have seen death so close to us and we didn't even realize they were coming? Sudden deaths, they can overcome any one of us at any time. Imam al-Hussein on the plains of Karbala, in the many khutbahs that he delivers, one of the lines that he says, "An-nas abidu dunya wad-din la'ikun ala al-sinatikum." That mankind is the slave of the dunya and deen is just upon their tongues. Let me put it into perspective for you. What does this mean? Do I feel more pain in my heart? Do I feel more upset that at the time when I lose a £10 note, or the time that I wake up and I realize I've missed namaz al-fajr? Between you and between Allah. Do I feel more pain when I lose a £10 note or when I miss my namaz al-fajr? An-nas abidu dunya wa din la'ikum ala sinatikum. Mankind is the slave of the dunya, and deen is but on their tongues. There's that time when no one will come to you, that death. No friend, no doctor, no one's going to come to your aid. The only one and the only thing that will come to your aid is that love of Ahlul Bayt. And that love of Ahlul Bayt comes in totality with namaz, with azadari, everything. There is no comparison. They are all at one level. You leave one thing and your ibadat is naqis. Your ibadat is incomplete. Everything goes hand in hand. There is no comparison. Like the same way you wouldn't compare fasting with namaz, you don't compare azadari with namaz. That love of Ahlul Bayt with namaz. Because they're essential. And if we are worthy, then at the time of our death, no matter who we are, no matter where we come from, the Ahlul Bayt will come to our aid. Harun Rashid is, everybody knows, his son, name is Qasim. Someone comes to Harun al-Rashid, a man by the name of Jafar al-Barmaki. He says, Harun, because people are laughing at you. Harun says, why? He says, because you have all this money and all this wealth and all this kingdom, but yet your son, Qasim, he walks around in rags, he lives a very simple life, he doesn't come to the palace to eat, and he spends his days in the masjid and his nights in the masjid doing ibadat. Harun said, really? Call my son to me. So they summon him. He comes, he says, my son, maybe it's because I didn't give you the governorship of any certain, maybe it's because I didn't give you power, I didn't give you kingship, that you're living your life as protest to me because of this. He says, I'll give you the governorship of Egypt. Here, I've written it for you. Go to Egypt, charge the people however many taxes you want, and live a proper life. Why are you living like this? The son, Qasim, turns around and he says, my father, I want nothing that has been usurped from the people. I am a follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib. turns around to his father, and this is what he says. He leaves the palace of Harun and he moves to Basra. Abdullah al-Basri narrates that one day I heard that, the son of Harun had fallen ill. So I went to meet him. And when I went into the house, I realized that he was passing through Sakarat al-Maut. He was passing through those last stages. He was about to die. He called me close and he gave me his final will and testament. He says, take this Quran. This is the will of the lovers of Ahlul Bayt. He says, take this Quran and give it to someone who will pray for me over my grave and complete this Quran over my grave for me. He says, second, take this ring and return it back to my father and say that I want nothing that has been usurped from the people. And the third thing, take my clothes and give them to someone who will wear them, do ibadat in them, give me ghusl, give me kafan in them, and then bury me. And then Abdullah al-Basri says, he turns and he looks to the corner and he says, Abdullah al-Basri, leave now. And as he's looking towards the corner, he raises his hand and says, Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, Abdullah al-Basri, leave now, because the one that I have been waiting for has come to greet me. The son of Harun. And yet Amir al-Mu'mineen is coming. And me, give yourselves to Ahlul Bayt. Totally devote your lives to Ahlul Bayt. Everything they do, do it. Brothers and sisters, Ahlul Bayt, as we recite in the ziyarah of the 12th Imam on the day of Friday, the ziyarah of Jum'ah, when we name the sifat of the Imam, we say, Kareemun min awladil kiram. You are the generous from amongst those that were generous, from the children of those that were generous. You are Kareemun min awladil kiram. They are generous beyond expectations. Come to Karbala and see the generosity of Abu Abdillah. Today I want to recite a musibat that is not recited very often in our centers. We don't hear much about the slave of Abu Abdillah, John. They say on the day of Ashura, John comes to ask permission from Abu Abdillah. And like he was with every one of the shuhada, Abu Abdillah was reluctant to give John permission to go out and fight. John begins to cry. He says, Ya Abu Abdillah, maybe it is because you don't want my blood as a black man, as a slave, to be mixed with the blood of Banu Hashim. Maybe it is because I'm not worthy. It's because I'm black, because I'm a slave. And there is not much in the conversation in the books of Maktab that appears between this master and the slave, but my heart tells me that Imam would have said, he would have cried and said that the same way that he spoke to each of the other companions, and probably would have said to him that, oh John, we are that family that take a Persian and he becomes Muhammadi. Go, and Imam gives him permission to go out and fight. John goes out and he fights bravely, but soon as every one of the shuhada did, the cry comes, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. They say that Abu Abdillah rushed out in order to come to the body of John. The army of Yazid say that we all stood to watch what Hussein, what this master would do with his slave, what this master would do when he reached the body of his slave. Oh Shias of Ali Muhammad, oh those that are in love with the Ahlul Bayt, listen to the love of Abu Abdillah for his slaves. We all claim to be the slaves of Ahlul Bayt. They say that we saw that Hussein came to the head of his slave. He sat down and he took the head of John in his lap and began to wipe away the blood from the head of John, and then وَضَعَ خَدَّهُ عَلَى خَدِّهِ. He placed his face upon the face of John. John opens his eyes and sees that Abu Abdullah has placed his face on the face of John, he begins to cry out, Man mithli, man mithli, who is there like me, who is there like me? وَابْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ وَضَعَ خَدَّهُ عَلَى خَدِّي, that the son of Zahra places his face upon my face, and John leaves this world. I sat there reading this, and my heart and my mind wandered to Asr Ashura, and I turned and I addressed John, and I said, John, that face that gave you pride when it was pressed against your face, John, come to Asr Ashura, and you will find that that face is covered in blood, mixed with the earth of Karbala, and Shimmer comes and he places his foot upon the face of Aba Abdullah. He turns over the body of Aba Abdullah. Ash-Shimru jalisun ala sadri. Shim sits upon the chest of Aba Abdullah. He grabs the beard of Aba Abdullah and begins to hack away at the neck. Ala pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Oh Allah, those who are in debt, clear their debts. Oh Allah, those who are in education, make them successful. Keep our ulama and our maraji at the head of our institutions, give them all long lives. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the one that will avenge Karbala, the Imam of our time. Oh Allah, allow us to be amongst his true muntazireen, his true awaiters, for the acceptance of these du'as and any other du'as that the brothers and sisters have brought to the Majalis. Please recite 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala